Coming up this week on Beyond the Vibe, we chat with Caroline Eve Kenyon of Bastette.
I would put on shows, I would sing for family, anybody who would listen. Like, if there was people round, they would have to listen to me sing. That's how I was. At like 3 years old, there's videos of me going, I'm doing a show! And at the time, kind of needed to do the journey on my own, I think, to find where I wanted to be, because I went through so many different styles that are just, they are music fans. They want to invest, they want to support. The video for it we shot in -2 degrees in an abandoned building in Liverpool. And it was, you can actually see my breath on the video. That is real, that's not an effect. And I'm in a lace dress, like having to act all composed, and really I'm like absolutely shaking as I go.
Show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Day, lead guitarist in UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with musical videographer and photographer. It's Mr. Ryan Basey.
It is.
You thought I'd lost it then, didn't you? I fell off the cliff.
Like it was on the edge.
I fell off the cliff, but then the wind just blew me back on. So I'm very pleased that I got to the end of that sentence. How are you, Mr. Basey?
We're doing good. What guests do we have this week?
This week we have Caroline from Bastette, which got us thinking about proper new bands, because obviously with bands that we've discovered over the past probably like year and a half, whilst me and Mr. Bass have been pissing around, but they're probably new bands to us, but not to most people.
Yeah,
you know, which is a lot of the new wave of classic rock, really. I mean, you think of Wagons. For a lot of people, Massive Wagons will be a new band to them.
Yeah,
because they've been going for 10, 11 years. Same with Mason Hill and Crows, and ourselves in Rivers, and whereas Bastette for me are a proper new band,
Yeah, I think it's like, they're a literal new band, aren't they? Because they've only been going since 2019. But yeah, it made us think, because I mean, for me in particular, I've noticed it more so with American bands. They tend to wait like 4 or 5 years before they release like some kind of more widespread content.
Yes.
Whereas I've noticed that like English bands, maybe like Bastette and like Planet Fatale, we had them recently. They tend to just go like right straight for it.
Yeah, I mean, we did it pretty early. I mean, we brought out our first EP, The Enemy, still available, limited copies. We brought that out maybe after a year and a half, so very similar to Bastette and Planet Fatale. And the main reason is because that when it came to gigs, people would say, have you got any CDs? And we didn't have any CDs. But my only problem with it is that, like with the American bands, is when you wait, it means that your first stamp is a real true reflection of the quality of the band. Because you've allowed that, you've got through that infant stages, and you've really developed an identity. I mean, our first EP is very different from our mini album afterwards, and our debut album is massively different than our debut. And we're now at the point now where we're not going to be reprinting them because we just don't feel it's the right sort of reflection of the band, But at the time it was, and at the time it gave us something to do. I think my only thing is I'd struggle to bring an album out in them infant stages, because that's a proper stamp then, isn't it?
Yes, I mean it's interesting, because like I think maybe there's a difference between that American audience and an English audience.
Yeah, maybe,
because maybe at the end of those gigs for the American bands, maybe they don't get those people that are like, where's the album or where's the EP or something. Maybe just that English crowd wants something now.
Well, an interesting insight into it is obviously we've just been doing on tour with Blackwall Conspiracy, and in the very first show we were chatting about merch, because in Ireland the people, they're not bothered about merch at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're really not interested in it. Whereas when they come over here, most of the money the band will make is off merch, because UK fans are really into support. I think there's a lot of it as well around the whole new wave of classic rock and that community thing. We do this thing where after a gig we'll stand by the merch stand, we chat to people and we'll get to know people, and then we'll see them again at another gig. And I think then people tend to want to support the band a little bit more, because they've had that. I mean, Wagons are the ultimate example of that, because there's a real family around the band, and they can look to the fans to support them, you know, and there'll always be that desire for new merch and new material and stuff. So it's interesting. Obviously, if you look back in older bands, obviously I think Maiden were going for about 5 years before they recorded anything, before they went to did the Soundhouse tapes. You know, we were going from about 75 and gigging, you know, and it's good really that they did wait that long, because obviously they didn't really have a solid lineup of quality until around that sort of time. You know? So I think there's a balance between both things. I think in this country it appears you do need something to sell, because you can't gig for 5 years and not have at least an EP.
I think it's a different beast over here. I think things are just a bit different. I mean, as you said, only in Ireland it's different.
It just shows. No, it's not. It's water, a bit of water. I think if you're doing EPs, you're alright. I think I'm really passionate that albums are a different beast. So if you look at like Bastette, obviously they're just releasing now their second EP, which we talk about in the interview. And I think that shows that EPs are good, because I think it shows that progression. An album for me should be done at that point of when you want to have true impact and you know, proper lay what you're doing in the sand.
Yes, and you can hear all about the new EP from Bastette and everything else now.
So we're here with Kenyon of Bastette. Thanks for joining us, Caroline.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.
That's cool. So one thing that we'd like to do on the show is we'd like to go right back to the beginning, the origins of a musician. So with that in mind, when was the first time you remember hearing music and thinking, like, this is what I want to do? Was there a moment for you?
Probably when I raided my dad's CD collection and found Cher. That was it for me. Heart of Stone album. That was the album that I found, and I played it to death. But I've never really not wanted to do music. It's just that was kind of a big album for me, I suppose, growing up.
When did you first start singing? Like, because I think with a lot of vocalists, there's always that thing of that it's different than learning an instrument, because I think you naturally just fall into it, and then you start doing it more, and then you start either having singing lessons or performing with people. Like, when did that journey start for you?
As soon as I could talk, I was singing. I would put on shows. I would sing for family. Anybody who would listen. Like, if there was people round, they would have to listen to me sing. That's how I was. At like 3 years old, there's videos of me going, I'm doing a show! And then it's just progressed from there.
Did you kind of go into bands or anything? You know, a lot of people, I think with Nathan James, he was school choir. Yeah. That normally happens quite a lot. What about yourself? Were you in bands or?
I started off in the cathedral choir when I was 7. And then once I got to about 13, 14, all I wanted was a band. Much to my grandfather's dismay, I wanted a rock band. So I'd gone from doing really, really classical, like operatic type singing to wanting to do rock. So yeah, but they kind of work in some ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, we're both big Maiden fans, and Maiden have got that very classical vocal sort of thing. You know, I remember watching one of Bruce Dickinson's live shows he's been doing, and he talks a lot about that sort of operatic style thing. So I like that. I think there's a good crossover there.
Yeah, definitely.
So the band came together in 2019. Was there a moment for you personally, Caroline, where whether it be a practice or writing a certain song or a gig where you thought, oh, this is going to be good, you know, this feels like it's the right step?
Well, Bastette didn't start off as a band. Bastette started off as just me going into the studio with a session guitarist and getting down songs. And it's kind of more progressed into a band than like started off. And, you know, like I've just found that bands, as you know, can be difficult to get the right people, can't it? And at the time, I kind of needed to do the journey on my own, I think, to find where I wanted to be, because I went through so many different styles. Because I started off in a band when I was like 19. And, you know, when you're like just starting off and you don't really know what you're doing, but I didn't have the right people. and people weren't taking it seriously. And to me, it was like all I wanted to do. So I'd put everything into it, but then find that other people weren't as invested. So I went on my own, and that's how it kind of started.
When you went on your own, did you have the specific sound that's Bastette now, or did that grow when you brought kind of more of a band dynamic?
Yeah, it's definitely progressed. It's from like the first EP to kind of what's being released now. It's a little bit darker, a little bit heavier. The first EP, you can tell that I was figuring it out. Yeah. You've got like a kind of heavier one, like pop rock, I suppose, and then you'd go to like a really light acoustic track that kind of sounded random on the EP, and then you've got country thrown in there. So the first EP was just like a mashup. But I think that is part of progressing as a musician, isn't it? You find your way, you find what sounds you like, and what overall kind of sound you want to create.
Yeah.
So the upcoming EP Exposed, which will be out when this airs, when you had that collection of songs decided and you walked into the studio, did you have like a certain vibe that you wanted to achieve this time? And if so, how did you go about it?
Well, I wanted to go darker. I'd been listening a lot to a band called Starbenders. And they are an American band. They're actually supporting the Struts, and they are so cool and so edgy. And you just want to watch them, and you want to listen to them. Her voice is really completely different to mine, and kind of. I don't want to say screechy, but it's more like I've got quite a deep tone to my voice. But I loved the way that they meshed things, and they brought in, like, you'd have like a really punky kind of rock song, and then the next one would have loads of like synths over the top. And I loved the combination of different styles that they put into the music, whilst it's still obviously rock and a bit darker. And yeah, really cool. So they were like a massive influence on the new tracks that you've just heard.
Nice. So obviously you said you formed sort of, there was you originally going in with session musicians, and now you've got that more of a band dynamic, which is obviously known as Bastette. I mean, obviously we've done it ourselves, going through COVID, it's been really difficult, but I think having the new wave of classic rock as a community and a bit of a foundation, for yourself and the band that have been taken into that community. I mean, for yourself, how does that feel, Caroline, to have that support from the new wave of classic rock, particularly during COVID with Webfest and obviously the album that came out?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's basically so good to have a community of people that they are music fans. They want to invest, they want to support, and obviously the way that the industry has gone, like music is almost, well, you can get it for free, can't you? Spotify. You don't even have to pay if you don't want to. You can endure the adverts. So having a group of people and a community of people that actually value what you're doing is just a breath of fresh air.
God, you should do their advert.
I know.
It's just a breath of fresh air. Well, we were chatting before on about because obviously we were on tour at the minute with Blackwater, and he was on about coming to the Waterloo, and like I think the Waterloo, when we played there before, it was just you'd see people at the gig that you've seen before at other gigs, and you get to know. Community is the word that seems to keep popping up, doesn't it? Right? And I think it's nice to have that feeling of knowing that people will come and see you because they feel connected to you as well as your music, and they want to support everything about that, And I think that's a true rebellion to the Spotify generation, definitely. I think COVID's helped with that as well, because we missed it for so much. I think there's a real hunger for gigs. I don't know if you felt that yourself coming back gigging.
Yeah, definitely. But you do see that people know each other at gigs, don't you? Which is absolutely great. Like I could go to the Waterloo on my own and guarantee that there'd be 10 people in there that I could just go up to and say, get a drink with.
Yeah.
That's cool. When it comes to gigging the new material off Exposed, is there any songs that fans can expect to hear? Any kind of favourites for you off the EP?
My favourite personally is Roller Coaster. It's the slowest track on the EP, but to me it was my heart and soul in a song, and it took me a long time to write it. It took me 10 months to finish the song.
Wow.
So it was a big deal when I finished it. And I kind of went through a time in my life that was, as everyone does, challenging emotionally, shall we say. So that's the roller coaster ride. And yeah, I hope that people can connect with that, because I think everybody's been there at some point.
Yeah.
And also the video for it, we shot in -2 degrees in an abandoned building in Liverpool. And it was, you can actually see my breath on the video, and that is real. That's not an effect. And I'm in a lace dress, like having to act all composed, and really I'm like absolutely shaking. It's that cold.
Yeah. Obviously, you spoke about gigging then, returning to gigging. For those that haven't seen Bastette, Caroline, what would you say your sort of character is on stage? Because I think we've always performers got different characters we go into. Some of us go moody. Some of us kind of. I run around like a Jack Russell. Yeah. And I don't do that in the co-op.
No.
Unless I'm stealing something.
Yeah.
Whole other story. But yeah, so like for those that haven't seen you, what character do you kind of find that you fall into on stage? And is there any particular people you take inspiration from as a performer?
I don't think I particularly perform like anybody, like obvious. Like my obvious influences, I don't think I love Lizzie Hale. Well, she's behind a guitar looking fierce. I'm not behind a guitar. I don't really. And Cher, she just struts, doesn't she? She's like, I am fabulous. I don't need to do anything about it. I can just sing. And that's kind of, she's not over the top. I'm a bit over the top on stage. But I think that you do step into a character, and I think I have more confidence. Like, it's almost like you're not yourself on stage. And I don't know. I don't know who I am like, really. I dance a lot on stage. That's my thing. I can't not move. I don't understand people who can go to a gig and they stand there and they don't move. And I'm like, can you not feel it? Can you not feel what I'm feeling right now?
No, I'm the same. Like I say, I move about all over the place, and that's me expressing, like you say, that feeling at the time, and enjoying for the music. And I think everybody's different, but it's normally there's something within you or part of your personality that I think comes out on stage. It's exaggerated, or it's just, it's heightened by the experience, definitely.
Yeah, I think you can stand on stage and be the best version of yourself that you wouldn't necessarily show in real life. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of performers that are a little bit different, or they want to call us weird. Well, yeah, but that's what makes us able to do that and to stand on stage with the confidence to make people want to look, because that is what it's about. You've got to be something to look at. Otherwise, why is somebody going to come see you?
That's very true.
Now, we like to throw some strange questions at artists. So, hypothetically, for Bastette's next album, which would be your first album, you've been told that you have to do another genre. What would that genre be? Has there ever been anything that you kind of would love to explore, maybe? Try out something different?
I love country, but sort of more Shania Twain country than maybe like Kenny Rogers. I don't. Yeah, I do love country. I love the softer side of music, actually, which people probably wouldn't necessarily expect from my image and the way that I would project on stage. But I do love sort of emotional, heartfelt songs that mean something that people can connect with. So probably country, yeah.
Do you think you could convince the rest of the band to do a country record?
Probably not.
You might have to say, give it a few years, and then when you do the solo thing, you can have your country.
Yeah.
That's a question we've been asking quite a few people recently, because I think it's always cool to. I mean, I know for myself, with me and the boys, you set individual targets for yourself. You know, I grew up in Donington, so I'd love to play downloads, you know, whatever. Like, where do you see the band in 10 years' time, Caroline? Is there any specific targets that you'd love to reach within that sort of time period?
I think everybody has big goals and aspirations in the back of your head, but I also think you've got to try and be realistic. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to play download. Who doesn't want to play download? I'd love to be able to tour, like headline tours, and be doing well enough that you're kind of set up, I suppose.
Just to be able to have the joy of playing music and to be able to live off it.
Yeah. I mean, like as we said earlier, like the industry is not what it was. So unless you get picked up and you're like Dua Lipa at 20, oh, here you go, sing that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not what it was. Musicians, there's a difference between being a musician and a pop star. And we're musicians, you know what I mean? So you climb up and it's little wins.
I think that's it. The key thing to take enjoyment from them little wins. And I think if you can have like a career or even 10 years where you feel like you're just constantly having them little wins, even if it's just the joy of gigging, I think that's success in itself, isn't it? Like you say, you've got to be realistic, otherwise you end up kind of putting too much pressure on yourself, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for folks who want to check the band out, what gigs have you got planned coming up?
We are playing with Massive Wagons on the 25th, Saturday the 25th of September in Liverpool. We're going on tour with Marisa and the Moths, November to December. So lots of gigs lined up throughout that month, which I cannot wait. It's been like we've all been cooped up. Right, okay, let's go on tour. So, yeah, we've got a gig with Gorilla Riot coming up at the Waterloo in a few weeks. So it's just kind of rolling a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good. The Wagons show will be great. I mean, the boys went to see Wagons in Nottingham on Monday and they were awesome. You know, I think you'll go down great in Liverpool, mate. Good. And the tour, I bet you can't wait for the tour, just because it's just a full experience of being in a band, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the tour it was booked before COVID.
Right.
So as everybody kind of has experienced, everything has been pushed back again and again and again. And like at first, I think everybody was pushing back to September, like 2020. And it was like, oh, okay, that's not going to go ahead either. Okay, January 2021, oh, that's not going ahead either. So we're all just kind of like clambering on now, aren't we? Like, okay, we can go, I think.
Now we like to finish the show on, again, a bit of a hypothetical question.
Cheeky one.
I know. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
I don't think I like that question. There's too many. Okay. Band from the past. But are they still doing it? Are they not allowed to be still doing it?
No, they can still be doing it. It depends what era you want them in.
Yeah, like you could select a specific era if you'd like.
Well, I would say Heart from the past, but I mean, who can compete with Ann Wilson? So that might be a bad idea, actually. But we'll say Heart because, like, her voice is just the best voice in the world, in my opinion. Now, I mean, I love Those Damn Crows. I'd love to do a gig with Those Damn Crows. I think they're absolutely awesome. The new album is in my gym playlist. I'm like, whoa, well done. No, I really like their stuff.
Cool. No, I think that's a solid lineup. So we've got Bastette opening, and then we'll have the Crows boys, and then we'll have Heart. That's solid. That's power.
Some variety.
Some serious power on the go there. Obviously, Shane's got some lungs on him and all, hasn't he?
Yes.
So there's some serious vocal stuff going on there.
Yeah, there would.
You've put the pressure on yourself, though, haven't you? Because you've put Shane and Ann Wilson. I think you'd smash it, Caroline. We'll have a word with Shane. We'll have a chat with Ann Wilson.
I mean, I've got her on speed dial.
Right to us all the time.
Yeah, just hop over to America, you know.
Yeah.
We'll sort it out, mate. Yeah. I mean, we gigged with Crows a month or so back, and I'd never really got Crows until I'd seen them, like, you know, where they're at now and live. They're just class. I mean, Shane was climbing pretty much everywhere, you know, and you're in the middle of Wales.
Some real energy, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely, you know, and I think they're very good at having a wide variety of songs that can fill a headline set list, and I think that variety is really important in a headline band. You know, so yeah, no, that'd be cool. Thanks ever so much for your time, Caroline. For those that haven't done it already, make sure that they follow Bastette on the Facebook, on the Instagram, and the YouTube. When this goes out, the new EP will be out, so make sure you check that out and see them on the tour in November through to December. And we'll try and get to it. We'd love to see it, and hopefully see you at the Waterloo tomorrow night. So yeah, thanks for your time, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
See you in a bit.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate that. So yes, that was Caroline from Bastette. Enjoyed talking to her. She's a good character. I like her enthusiasm. I like the fact that she dances on stage. Because obviously I like a jiggle on stage. You know,
share the dance.
Wiggle. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the fact that, you know, you should express yourself on stage. But everyone's different. Everyone's got different characters and things that come out, and the stage kind of gives that platform for that. You know, makes you feel very vulnerable, and different things come out when you're feeling a bit vulnerable.
Yeah, it was interesting how she talked about. She mentioned in the first EP that she did. Obviously, we were talking before the interview there. You know, about your sound may change over time, and she mentioned it there. You know, she was saying, we had a bit more of a softer sound. You know, occasional like pop feel to the first EP, whereas now they're going a bit more of a heavier kind of.
It's like we discussed, you know, it is progression, and I think it is nice in some ways with the EPs because fans can look back and they can see that progression. For the band as well, you can hear it, you know, in terms of not just like the quality of the songs, but also the recording quality. It's all a progression and growth and understanding for the band and for the fans, you know. And I agree. I think that was really interesting.
Yeah, for me, I like to see a band grow. You know, that's a big thing I like seeing with, you know, if a band does bring out that EP early, you know, you can see that progression that they've got, and I think that helps, you know, build more of a connection because like you're kind of on that journey with them.
Well, I felt, but as soon as you said that, I remember listening to Folklore with Blackstone after the first album and thinking and feeling like I was part of that progression. I was like, these have got better. Like I can feel that they've matured, and I was glad to be part of that. You know, and especially seeing bands live again, as we spoke about with them going out on tour in November. It's nice to see that growth live as well. You know, see bands become more confident. You know, we've had a lot of people come to see us boys in Rivers and say, "Oh, I saw you like." You know, 6-7 years ago at some festival, you know, and I can't believe how much you've changed and stuff. I mean, I didn't have a beard, you know, and that's physical growth,
literal
physical growth, you know. So it is interesting. I think that's a big part of being a family around, you know, around a band, you know, for the fan base.
Of course, you've grown a new member as well in that.
I've grown a new member. I've now got 2 cocks. You could decide if you want to edit that. Completely in your hands. Not the member, the editing thing. But yeah, we've grown a new member. We've got a keyboard player now.
Yeah,
you know,
this is it. I think
we never imagined happening in the original days. Well, multi-instrumentalist, he doesn't like to be known as a keyboard player.
Yeah. But this is it. I think that's, you know, it's interesting. You see those new elements added. You know, Caroline talked about. You know, she was talking about like, adding that synth into there as well. So it's like,
well, you're learning all the time.
Yeah, you're always adding new things.
It depends what you're listening to as well, right? Like I got really into Blackberry Smoke, and that was a massive influence for me about 4 years ago. You know, and when I was talking to the Blackwater boys, they went on tour with Blackberry Smoke when they were in $1 Million Reload. $1 Million Reload's a lot different than what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But they learnt so much. Phil was saying, being out with Blackberry Smoke, you know, and it's very similar for me. You know, just you soak up everything that you listen to, and I think that naturally then, you know, gives you that inspiration or that guidance, you know, to want to add new things to what you're doing.
And it's all very interesting.
It's all ever so interesting.
It is. But yes, that is it for this week on Beyond the Vibe. If you like what we're doing there, you can subscribe, of course. And you can follow us on Facebook, because if you want to find out what guest we have out on our podcast every Saturday from 10 a.m, you can obviously follow us on Facebook, and then we release a teaser every Wednesday from 10 a.m, revealing who said guest is. And if that's not enough, we also bring out some extra vibes occasionally, which is about various different topics. That could be like top 10 best new rock vocalists. It could be best new guitarist. It could be like best albums of the last decade. It could be anything.
And you get to share your opinion with us as well in the comments. Not just with the extra vibes with this video as well. Let us know whether you checked Bastette out, what you think, any other new bands that you'd recommend to us that you think we've not noted yet. We're very open-eared and open-eyed and willing to check them out. So yeah, get involved in the vibe. As Mr. Vasey said, we have a wide array of guests as well, and we're going out into the wild as well soon. We're actually going out to gigs, and we're bringing some brand new content around that soon. So click the bell, and then you'll never miss a video. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you for supporting the family, but get on YouTube, because then you get to see our lovely ugly mugs, as well as the people that we interview. But thank you for supporting the vibe, and
we'll see you next week.